how's it going? So, you know that little golden crest in the middle of Real Madrid's jersey for winning the Club World Cup? It's now just sort of a formality for whoever wins the Champions League, but to teams from outside of Europe, it means the world. Before it was the Club World Cup, the competition was called the Intercontinental Cup, as it was an annual match between the winner of the Copa Libertadores and the Champions League, the best club competitions in South America and Europe, respectively. But one year above all others, this competition played host to one of the greatest footballing shows between the two continents we've ever seen. Boca Juniors versus Real Madrid, November 28th, 2000 in Tokyo. Before we get to the game itself, we need to understand how each one of these clubs got here. Real Madrid won the Champions League for the 8th time in their history in May of 2000. Breezing through the first group stage saw them progress into a second group stage where they ran into some trouble when they met the previous year's finalist Bayern Munich, barely squeaking through into the quarterfinals. Los Blancos faced the previous champions Manchester United, who they drew 0-0 at the Bernabeu. Then, at Old Trafford, found themselves up 3-0 thanks to a Roy Keane own goal and a Raul double just before half. Goals from Beckham and Scholes couldn't save United, and Raul were on to the semis. They promptly got revenge on Bayern Munich at the Bernabeu, winning 2-0, while managing a 2-1 defeat in Munich to see them through to the final, where they dusted a Valencia side that was talented as hell but virtually allergic to winning finals. Immediately following the triumph, there was a great deal of upheaval in Spain's capital. Club president Lorenzo Sanz had overseen a period of unprecedented success to the club with 2 Champions League trophies to show for it, but had epically mismanaged the finances. The now infamous Florentino Perez promised to solve the financial issues at the club and bring in a star player every summer, starting with Luis Figo from arch rivals Barcelona. He won the presidential elections and kept his promise, purchasing Figo and Claude Makélélé in the summer of 2000. Thus commenced the era of the Galácticos. But the side which I find far more interesting of the two is Boca Juniors. For some context, Boca at this time was a team with 2 major stars up top. Juan Román Riquelme, who plays as an attacking midfielder, and Martín Palermo, who was a lethal striker and ended up becoming Boca's all-time leading goal scorer. Palermo went down with a ruptured ACL in November of 1999, which made him unavailable indefinitely and had the 2000 season looking pretty bleak for Los Chineses. Just to show you the kind of player Boca would be missing, this is him injuring his ACL, then proceeding to score his 100th top-flight goal in the same game. He is the definition of a dog. Boca would start their Libertadores journey without him down in Santa Cruz de la Sierra, Bolivia against Club Blooming. The Argentine champions lost their opening Libertadores game 1-0 in an embarrassing performance for the club. It was a huge upset and cast serious doubts as to how the team would perform without Palermo up top. In response, they went undefeated in the rest of their group stage games, advancing to the round of 16 where they took care of Ecuadorian El Nacional before a quarterfinal matchup against River Plate, their arch rivals. Now, Los Millonarios had won the Libertadores recently in 1996, while Boca were chasing their first title in over 20 years. Something had to give. It was a matchup of 2 of the best number 10s in the world's game, Riquelme and Pablo Aimar, both footballing idols to a certain young boy from Rosario who was most likely watching. 3 days before the first leg, the teams tied 1-1 in the league, leaving fans wanting a more decisive result in the upcoming tie. The Libertadores semi-final opened on River's field. Given Boca's poor domestic form, this tie was do or die for them. A sharp finish from Juan Pablo Angel was cancelled out by a beautiful Riquelme free kick in the first half. Saviola opened up the second half with his stunner from outside the area. And the score remained the same until the final whistle. This meant Boca headed into the second leg down 2-1, but legendary coach Carlos Bianchi entered the return leg in La Bombonera with an ace up his sleeve. There were rumors that Palermo was getting ready to play only 6 months after his injury, an idea that seemed so ridiculous at the time it was mocked by the River Plate manager. Boca came out red hot in the second leg, but weren't able to make anything concrete happen in the first half. It started looking like their season may be over. But in the 60th minute, they surged forward.
Lombardi, sigue Román, Berizzo que no puede, este es Román, sí, Román, viene el chero, gol, gol.
The team was finally level on aggregate, but with no away goals rule, Bianchi was in need of a big moment. 15 minutes later, the Argentine Larry David called upon his star Martín Palermo for the first time in 6 months. He was welcomed in by a kiss on the cheek, the crowd roared, and the game was well and truly on. A mere 2 minutes later, Sebastián Batalla was taken down in the box and it was a penalty for Boca. Up stepped Riquelme.
El Tito del arco, Román.
Decisive, passionate, and you can see what this moment means to him. Boca are finally ahead and look to make it to the semifinals at the expense of their biggest rivals, who have been getting the better of them so far that year. River were desperate and got a red card, while Riquelme was putting on a clinic in the midfield, moving with such precision and confidence it was scary to think he was only 21 years old. In the 94th minute, to seal the deal.
Sigue Bataglia, quiere Martín, viene Martín, se la va a dar, no quiero ser Martín, no va a ser Martín, golazo de Martín, ¡gol!
Martin Palermo slots home the most Martin Palermo goal I have ever seen, because he just couldn't finish a big game without leaving his mark. He was a man for these moments, even if he only played 20 minutes of the entire tie. This one-legged effort was now referred to as El Gol de las Muletas, or the goal on crutches. Elation at the final whistle, Boca were through. The semis were set against Club America, who Boca overwhelmed in the first leg 4-1 at La Bombonera. But as many people will tell you, the Estadio Azteca is a difficult place to play. The second leg saw Club America clawing back in the first half, and by the 81st minute they had tied things on aggregate. Boca may be shaken as they head for penalties. From kickoff, they win a corner.
Ahí va Román y el centro busca Samuel y va Walter Samuel. ¡Gol! ¡Gol!
Through to the final on a looping Walter Samuel header in the 83rd minute, Boca now had to face Palmeiras. The Brazilians had won the Copa Libertadores the previous year on penalties in very dramatic fashion under Luis Felipe Scolari. The final of the Libertadores was always a two-legged affair, with this edition set to begin at home in Buenos Aires for Los Chineses and end in Sao Paulo at the Morumbi. Martin Palermo started the first leg on the bench as he worked back to full health. The Bombonera was shaking, aching for a victory, something to take to Brazil with pride. A few aggressive attacks from the off didn't come through for Boca until the 13th minute.
Este es el Chipi Barico y aquí aparece Jiménez, él va con el área, llega Bataglia, el cabezazo Román en la gol. Gol!
1-0 Boca, limbs. Just before half, Palmeiras win a free kick at midfield. It's sent into the box where Pena flicks it over Cordoba, but a fantastic tournament so far. We go into half tied 1-1. Palermo comes on. The second half begins much to the tune of the first. Chaos. Boca pushing and pushing. Finally, in the 61st minute, an awkward cross flashes in front of goal. Barrena, the left back, gets his second. Advantage Boca. It seemed impossible for Palmeiras to respond in this atmosphere where, well, Euler brings us level. Boca try their best. Palermo does not look himself, and that's where it ends. 2-2. No advantage against the previous year's champions going to play on their home ground. It would certainly not be easy. Now, Palermo started the second leg, and in the first half put Boca ahead from an offsides position. And from this point out, it was mostly Palmeiras on the front foot. Countless chances halted by heroic defensive performances from Los Chineses, with the goalkeeper Oscar Cordoba having a fantastic game. No one could break the deadlock. The stage was set for penalties. It was almost eerie how similar it was to the previous year's final. Palmeiras at home, second leg, penalty shootout. Boca seemed doomed to suffer at the hands of a Palmeiras repeat.
Alex. Guillermo. Esto está.
O Asprila vai para a cobrança. É a segunda do Palmeiras. Partiu Asprila. No pé direito partiu. Bateu. Pegou Córdoba.
Allí va. Román. 2-1. Está ganando Boca.
El de Mayo.
2-1 está ganando Boca. Porque Junior. Córdoba. Brillante. Estupendo. Por ahora le está dando la Copa Libertadores de América. Oscar. Palermo. Boca está arriba 3-1.
Y quebró Palermo también.
Rogerio. Señoras y señores. Boca quiere la Copa. Bermúdez ganó la Copa Libertadores de América. Boca por penales aquí en el Morumbi. Boca ganador de la Copa Libertadores de América. Otra vez Bianchi en Brasil.
Boca Juniors, champions of South America. Diego Maradona is on his knees making a scene, but who can blame him? It's been a torturous campaign, but Bianchi's boys finally made it. Okay, so that's been quite a ride, but let's fast forward a few months to November. It's time to play some football in Japan. Before the Intercontinental Cup, both Boca and Real were in fine form domestically and would end up winning their respective league trophies that season. However, after their continental triumphs, they went wildly different paths in the transfer market. Boca had just sold their best defender in Valtteri Samuel to Roma for 20 million euros, and the hero from the final, Arrua Barrena, to Villarreal for 4 million euros. As mentioned earlier, Los Blancos had just added Makelele and Luis Figo, who would go on to win that year's Ballon d'Or a month later, to a side already full of European champions and football's biggest stars. So Boca now had to face the first ever Galacticos side after losing 2 of their starting defenders.
It's not looking good, bruv. It's not looking good.
The stakes were also high for Madrid. Florentino Perez wanted to expand into the Asian markets where the English clubs had long dominated, and winning this trophy in Tokyo with his new super team would be the perfect opportunity to do so. But this cup always meant something special for South American teams, a chance to prove that their club was still significant and could hang with the European giants. And Bianchi had already won the trophy back in 1994, which is an epic story for another video. So despite all of Real's hype, Boca were ready for this moment. Their fans invaded Tokyo and captured the hearts of the locals. Boca players were giving out endless photos and autographs, while the stars of Real Madrid were simply above all that. Boca also had to prepare for a change in seasons as they were leaving a Buenos Aires spring for the early days of a Japanese winter. Riquelme also had a slight knock which restricted his training leading up to the match. When the game finally kicks off, Boca looked to get the upper hand in the opening few minutes, but Riquelme makes a straight pass that takes the sting out of an attacking move. Maybe the injury was affecting him. Real Madrid wastes the following throw-in, which Boca defender Aníbal Matechan launches forward, and the rest. Goal! 2.5 minutes in, Chelo Delgado surprises Fernando Hierro and flashes the ball across the goal. Who else but Martin Palermo to open the scoring? With the Boca fans bouncing, Real try to get one back quickly, going on the front foot hard, but Raúl is dispossessed. Riquelme gets the ball and sends it up the field.
Pero se termina cortando ahora Román, que mete ahora para Palermo habilitado. Acaba Martín para el segundo, Palermo para el segundo, si llega hasta Palermo para el segundo. ¡Gol!
Again, a man of destiny. After the injury the season before, barely making a difference in the Libertadores, Martin Palermo holds off Jeremy and boots the ball past Casillas to put Boca up 2-0 against the Galacticos inside 6 minutes. Bianchi later said that if Jeremy and Martin ran 100 races, Jeremy wins 99, Palermo wins 1. But that's all he needed. Now Boca must weather the storm from Real as they come forth in full force. Roberto Carlos has one smack off the crossbar, but he wasn't done there. In the 12th minute, Hugo Ibarra tries to clear Figo's cross, but it lands at the feet of the Brazilian left back. And there is no stopping that. Madrid are still in it. But Boca didn't just sit back. Riquelme's free kicks were keeping the Spaniards on their toes as they played on equal footing, going forward for their third goal of the game. Boca were brave, unfazed by the stars in front of them. The second half had some great moments. 22-year-old Riquelme had Makelele on strings and was consequently getting kicked down quite frequently. And the game finally ended 2-1. Boca were world champions. Diego goes nuts. Passion, spirit, and dare I say, the power of friendship downed Real's Galacticos on the biggest stage of them all. What happens to the team after this point could be for another video. There was drama between Roman and Palermo, along with Roman and Diego. Bianchi builds a dynasty with Boca, but this will always be remembered as the game that started it all. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if you learned anything or just your thoughts on the video in general. I like to do some more historical recaps like this, so let me know how this was. I have a lot of stories up my sleeve. Until next time, bye.